What's up, grinders? How's things going? Okay, so today we're going to be doing another review. We're going to be looking at how language learning saved my mental health through the toughest times. Okay, wow, this mic is like really off-centered at the moment. One sec. There we go. Okay, so this is a video or a review I'm pretty sure is going to hit on some interesting points for me because I definitely have stories around this stuff, so let's see where this one leads.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be having a really nice, cozy chat about two topics that I'm very...
I always find it funny, and I do this as well, but YouTube is like, hey, welcome back to my channel, when like the majority of people are like first time here, and they're just like, I don't know you, I just stumbled into this room, I'm sorry, I'll leave now. Like, it's always an interesting thing when I think about it from a viewer's perspective.
Very passionate about, one of which of course being language learning, but the other being mental health. Now in the past I have discussed some related topics such as...
I feel like the way he's sitting, talking, he's got like the coffee thing there, we're about to go into a psychological breakdown of my mental state. Like things are about to get really personal. Like, is this a safe space? I don't think it is because I have a camera pointing at me right now.
As loneliness and language learning, but today I wanted to do a more broad discussion on just how language learning has impacted my mental health personally, a bit about my journey, because I hope that this could be helpful for people in different ways, right? Obviously, you know, mental health is a very common thing that we can go...
I've definitely got my own story around this. I may introduce it here. We shall see where this video goes.
Through ups and downs in life, but I think especially the last year and a half has been very challenging for lots of us. So I hope that by sharing...
Year and a half. I'm guessing this was like a COVID video or something.
Some of my thoughts on this, it could be helpful. Maybe it can open up some...
You know, funnily enough, I'm getting a little bit distracted here, but like for COVID for me, like it was not a bad thing. Like, sure, I didn't get to meet like the local Esperanto speakers and do stuff like that, but like I am generally a person who prefers just to stay at home. So when everyone else was just forced to stay at home, I was just like, hey, can't force me to come out now, can ya?
New ways that some of you out there can think about how your own language learning could benefit your mental health positively. And maybe even for some people who are still considering taking that leap into learning a language, it could be kind of cool to see that there's so many other benefits you get. So let's just jump in after a quick sip of this. So I'll...
Wait, he said after a quick sip, you ain't giving me my sip. God damn it.
Start by just saying very broadly that language learning has had an immensely positive impact on my mental health over the last decade now that I've been learning languages in a pretty serious way. I've definitely gone through...
I can't help it, but the wrinkles on his forehead when he gets expressive, they look like they could crush a can.
A pretty crazy array of weird and difficult circumstances and situations over the course of that time. And I'm not saying that my life has been any worse or any...
By the way, I'm probably making jokes right now because this is getting a little bit awkward.
More challenging than anybody else. I'm just sharing my personal experience, right? But I've gone from things like homelessness to health issues to like never-ending financial difficulties and problems over the years. And then...
Okay, so his issues are definitely different to my own when I started learning my first proper language, which was Esperanto. I say proper language because it's one that I actually learned the fluency.
And even deeper internal things like self-confidence issues, right? These are all things that I've gone through in abundance over time, and a lot of them have been just cyclical, where they just come back over and over again. And I can say that, honestly, learning languages in itself has gotten me through the vast majority of these things, either at least in part, or sometimes even exclusively.
Okay, well, let's do it. I guess I'll drop a little bit of my story to give you guys some background on basically what I'm talking about. So, as most of you know, well, unless you're new here, I was in the military a very long time ago, and I was posted to a location where basically it was just other soldiers there. And it was not like a place that was very interesting. It just had a pub, a cinema type of thing. And, you know, I kept getting moved from one location to another, and like I wasn't really establishing any type of friendships or anything like that. And I was not happy with the direction in my life, and I was locked into a contract within the military for a period of time that seemed like eternity at the time. And I remember at the time that I don't know if I was depressed or not. Like, I'm just going to be honest straight up. Like, maybe I was just annoyed. Like, because I don't know what depression feels like. So I was just, well, maybe I don't know. Anyway, I was just like at this point where I was just sick of everything. Like, I was just tired of shit, and I just did not want to be there. I even thought about, you know what? F it, I'm just going to pack up and go. What are they going to do? Like chase me down type of thing? Whatever. So like maybe the fact that I was thinking like that and looking at like possible exits and stuff indicates that I wasn't in a state of depression, because I feel like people, maybe I'm wrong about this, but people who go through depression, they just want to lay down and not do anything. I was not like that. I was like actively thinking about ways I could get out of my situation and improve it. But I knew I couldn't, because I'm also a very loyal person, and when I say I'm going to do something, i.e. sign a contract, I'm going to do it. So I had to find other ways to distract me during this period of absolute boredom in the middle of nowhere for like several years, and that's where like Esperanto came into it, or language learning in general, because I just needed like an escape from the mundane world in which I was existing.
I honestly don't know if I would have finished university if it weren't for the fact that I was learning Japanese, which I'm going to talk about.
And there's a similar thing now. Like, I don't know, like, if I would have stuck to the end of my military contract and not gone, you know, AWOL or something, if I did not have something to, like, focus my energies in on.
And a video coming very soon I'm really excited about. But so that's sort of a broad case to be made from my perspective that language learning has been immensely beneficial to my mental health. Now, I'd like to discuss two sort of branches here, one being a more broad, general way that I think learning anything, you know, as a hobby, as a passion, can benefit our mental health. And then I want to discuss a few points on how, for me, language learning specifically has certain qualities that I think have really made it a big boost to my mental health.
Overall, I think hobbies in general, like language learning, I don't think it has anything specific that can help with like mental health. I feel like as long as you have a hobby that you're passionate about and you can meet other people who are also passionate about it, then you can avoid like this feeling of isolation. Like even shut-ins like me, we still like to communicate with other humans. We just prefer to do it online type of thing. But like we still need that like human interaction in some form or another. So it's like, I feel like this is not a language-specific thing that we're about to get into here. It's more like as long as you have something that you can dedicate your passion and attention to, or your interest to, then you're not going to start like falling back and, you know, into this sorrow state of I've got nothing to do, I'm bored, now I'm like sad, what am I doing here in life type of thing. At least this is my personal experience. I'm not talking about everyone. This is definitely for me.
Mental health. So very broadly, I think that anytime we pick up a new hobby or skill or fascination or anything, you know, that revolves around learning something, learning a new skill, I think that can be inherently beneficial to our mental health because by its very nature, it's turning that period of your life, right, however long or short, however difficult or whatever it may be, you're turning that period into something that is in some way constructive, right?
I agree totally. Like there was that period of time for about 2 to 3 years where I saw, like, the end was there a couple of years away, but, you know, when there's something like 3 years ahead of you, it looks like it's an eternity away. Now I look back at it and it's like, it's so far in the past, it's not funny. But at the time, I was like, I'm here in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do in a career path, realistically, that I now know is not like what I want to do with my life. I need something to feel like I'm making progress with my life as opposed to just like whittling out my days, sitting here doing the same mundane thing over and over. And that might sound like silly, like a mundane thing in the military. They always talk about, you know, the excitement of the military. Yeah, it's exciting and whatever, but like, it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I had fun, you know, with the physical exercise, you know, going out into the bush and doing all this type of stuff and, you know, like going on like pretend, well, not really pretend, but like training scenarios and stuff like that. I enjoyed the time, I enjoyed the people, but I knew deep down it was not what I wanted to do with my life. And because I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, I felt like I was wasting my time because I wanted to progress in something that would lead me to whatever my end goal was. And at the time, I had totally different end goals to what I do now. But I just knew that this was not the path that I wanted to follow, and I felt like I was walking down a path that was leading to nowhere because eventually I would have to turn around anyway, but I was forced to contractually.
In some way, it's positive, it is productive, right? Because by learning a new skill, whatever it might be, you are inherently growing yourself, right? You're improving yourself, you're creating potentially new opportunities for the future, whether those are professional or just things that are personal to you. And also,
exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
So when we're learning something new, especially a skill of some sort, it's usually, I think, because we want to do something in the future that this new skill will either allow us to do, or maybe it will deepen that experience for us, it will make it better, it will
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly the same thing for me. I knew I was doing something that would basically provide very little benefit to my future.
better equip us to do something. And so by focusing lots of our time and attention on learning something, it has this effect of, making us think a lot about the future, right? Spending a lot of time daydreaming and thinking.
And this is what I'm talking about when people always say, oh, why did you learn a useless language like Esperanto? And I give them the simple surface level story of, I wanted to learn a language, so I picked the easiest one because I'm stupid and I wanted to see if I could learn another language. That is the surface reason, it's the acceptable reason. However, the other reason below that was that it just sparked my interest, and I knew that this was just something that seemed deep down to me like it had a purpose. Like there was a path I could take with this. And so I just kind of like walked into it in that way. Now, I may have, if circumstances been different, walked down a path where I started learning German and had the exact same outcome, the exact same friendships, well, not the same friendships, but like the same type of experiences as I did with Esperanto. It's just in that moment, I just happened to click on that one page, which led me to that one language. And it was just like a random series of events that led me down that path. So although I like to talk about the uniqueness of the language, its history, all this type of stuff, and, like it's just kind of different in a lot of different ways, I'm pretty sure if I just clicked on a different link, I would be saying the same stuff about a different thing, because just language was what I needed at that time in my life. I just needed to feel like I was a different person, that I was stepping into a different life.
About that thing that we want to do eventually after we learn this skill. And so it's a really good way to just keep us looking forwards and spending a lot of time thinking about this positive thing that we want to do versus dwelling in the present or certainly the past, which I have a tendency to do.
Yeah, I remember when I was learning Esperanto, I was like, oh man, one day I'm going to make like Esperanto movies, like, full 60, 120 minute long movies. So I've got to get good at this language type of thing. I've never got around to doing that. Maybe one day if I get if I become a massive YouTuber, I'll put funding into that and like I'll actually produce some movies type of thing. But yeah, I can't afford to do that these days.
If left to my own devices. So shifting gears into some ways that I think language learning in particular has these special qualities that have been really impactful for me with my mental health. One of them for me is that by their very nature, right, learning languages is inherently about people, right? To some degree, it's about communicating with others. It's about sharing experiences with other people. Now, this could be, for example, very literally, like taking a trip or wanting to go live somewhere or...
For me, it was less about this, like connecting with other people, even though I've mentioned already in this video that I felt like that was an important factor to it. To me, the biggest factor, and I made an entire video about this, was like I was being born again. And you know how you always have that idea where you sit there and you're like, man, if I had the knowledge I had today and I could go back in time to when I was 8 years old, what actions would I take with this current knowledge in life? Like, I would exceed, and I'd shit on all the other kids at school type of thing and I'd laugh at them. No, I'm joking. But like, you play along with this idea of what I would do. And the fun thing is when you're learning another language, as I've mentioned in previous videos, it is like you're being reborn and you can go back and do all those things from the past. So you can like relive like those childhood videos and movies and stuff. And it has a purpose. It's not just, nostalgia or anything anymore. You're actually learning something out of it now. And you can go back and play all those old games. It's no longer just nostalgia. It's actually you're learning something out of it right now. So you get the benefit of like reliving this past and then eventually, finding new things, living a whole separate culture basically.
Maybe you're part of a community or you want to be part of a community of people, but it could even be communicating with an author of a book from hundreds of years ago through the stories that they've written. It could be anything. The point is that at its core, language is centered around people. And so for me, where a lot of my mental health challenges over the years have been centered around loneliness, spending so much of my time and energy and focus on something that is inherently about people, right? And
yeah, loneliness was a little bit of a part for me, although I was surrounded by people, but often I also hear people say, and it makes sense, that you can be alone while in a crowd type of thing. But it was less that for me, and it was more lacking of purpose.
Most of all, it's creating opportunities that will allow me to share much richer and more numerous and varied life experiences in the future with people. I find that very comforting in those most intense moments.
Actually, the funny thing is, since I started learning languages, I've never had that feeling ever since. Like, I've never had, those moments where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I'm wasting my time. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going in life. Like, there is actually, right now, I have multiple paths I could take forward in life. And all of them are appealing to me. And I'm actually just letting the actions of today, like what I'm doing right now, even like just doing these videos, to just lead me down one of those paths. And whichever one it takes, it doesn't matter to me. I'm quite happy. Like, I'm more than happy to follow that path. But the issue before was all the paths that were laid out in front of me led to destinations I did not want to go to. And I feel like that might be a big part of it. Like, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist, but I feel like if you have a path in front of you that you want to tread, you're going to be happy to get up in the morning and tread that path. But if you have a path that you don't want to follow and you're forced to follow it, it makes sense that you don't want to get up and follow that path because you don't want to go down there.
Moments of loneliness. And that leads me into another one, which is language learning by its very nature. It is opening up doors to new experiences in life that you can have later on, right? And so I think another aspect that has been challenging.
This is so true. Like, the amount of crazy stories I've got just using Esperanto and traveling around the world and stuff, I never would have got with, like, I'm pretty sure with any other language even. Like, maybe I could have pulled off a similar type of thing. Let's say if I learned Spanish, I could have went through the Americas and then parts of Europe and stuff. But, like, Esperanto is just one of those rare ones where, like, you could just use it anywhere. So for me, I've got some crazy stories, had some interesting experiences, met the most bizarre of people. Like, it's been a good time.
For my own mental health over the years has been this feeling that I've been missing out on so many experiences in life. First of all,
and this is also the same with Chinese now. Like, I've seen the most interesting of places, like the type of places that, you know, my dad will sit down and watch on the TV in a documentary and he'll be like, wow, that's fascinating. I've walked there. I've gone there. I've touched those bricks. I've spoken to those people type of thing. It's so much better now due to the fact that I actually speak the language. Like, I got this crazy story. I remember I was on the border of Tibet. Like, I couldn't go into Tibet due to various reasons, obviously. But I was at this massive monastery and I remember I was there walking around having a look and there was this monk. And this was not like your standard tourist destination. Like, this was actually pretty much only a place that like locals would go to. And I remember this monk and he sat down next to me and like at this time my Chinese was not that great. But he was asking me, or he was trying to ask me, where am I from? Because obviously I was very curious looking to him. And I explained to him in Chinese that I'm from Australia and he just gave me the most bewildered look. And I was like, what? And then he basically like ran off and then came back with this old tourist map and he opened it up. And it was obviously in Chinese, but it had like these little pictures that represented the people of each country. And he pointed down at Australia. And in the middle of Australia was this Aboriginal with a spear in his hand, his knee up in the air like he was about to hunt a kangaroo. And he's pointing at this person, he's looking at me. And I was like, oh, how do I explain this situation? Like, it was just fascinating. Like, this type of thing just wasn't common knowledge there.
Well, even when my life involved, you know, living in different places and moving around a lot, that might look like, oh, he's like going out there having the time of his life. But no, I was just living in places. And most of the time I was in very difficult financial situations. You know, I was not going out and just seeing the...
This is just social media in general, even YouTube. People always present the best image of themselves. On this channel, I try to be realistic about, you know, like what to expect from things. And that's why I like to cut down a lot of shit that I see online. I say, that's not how it is. Because like this fake idea of what people are really like or what they can achieve and stuff like this, it just like feeds into this depression that people can have because they're like, why can't I achieve that? But it's all bullshit. Social media in general is just all bullshit, obviously. We all know this, but for some reason we still all fall for it. Even YouTube, you know, type of thing.
The world traveling in the way that you might think. You know, I wasn't going to places for fun. I was just trying to survive. And in a lot of cases, I didn't really see anything in most of the places that I lived.
I never had that experience. By the time I was traveling, I was actually enjoying life.
And then for the last like 4 or 5 years, I've been mostly just in a cave. You know, like as many of you know, I was either, you know, writing my book or I was learning how to program and then I was trying to build Journaly while doing all these things.
I actually wrote a book once. I never published it, but I wrote a full book and I think I'll never publish it. And writing a book it can be depressing. Like, you're just sitting there staring at this story. You're going into your own head, like writing out this story. And sometimes it just, I don't know, maybe this is just a me thing, but like I found writing was not that fun after a while.
So my 3 years in the Bay Area, aside from when I moved to Oakland, like I didn't even leave San Francisco. It's not a big place. I didn't leave right? So a lot of times I felt like I was just missing out. People all around me were traveling and doing so many things. Then, of course,
You know, I've always been moving all my life. In fact, only in the last 10 years have I actually been stable in my location, because when I grew up, my family would move every 2 years as my dad had to follow the work from small town to small town. And I've got kind of like an opposite feeling to this, where I'm quite happy to be on the road as long as I'm in a place that makes sense to me, which when I was in the military didn't. However, I don't have the feeling that some people have about, oh, you know, I'm going to go back home, you know, to my hometown type of stuff. I don't have a hometown, and it's really weird. Like, I guess now my home is literally just wherever my wife is type of thing. But like, I don't have that feeling of, you know, like that's my old, you know, hometown. In Chinese, I'd say 老家. Like, I don't have that.
You know, we had 2020. So I often felt like I was missing out on experiences. But again, learning these languages, it was always so comforting and helpful to know that what I was doing, regardless of how difficult a particular time period was for me, I was doing things that were going to allow me to have a vast number of wonderful experiences in the future whenever that time came. So it's always kept me just looking to the future, focusing on positive things. And at the very least, I can always look back on the time I've spent over the last years, and I know that it's been productive, it's been constructive, it has been time spent doing things that will hopefully only benefit the rest of my life going forward. So I just think that is incredibly helpful for impacting our mental health in a positive direction. Now,
I think the main thing here is you just kind of need somewhere where you want to go in life. It doesn't have to be a set goal or something. Like, it doesn't have to be like completely, you know, written down, I will do this by age 35. In fact, that's probably a bad idea. What you want to have is a crazy end goal in life where it can help guide you towards that. Now, when I say crazy, you're probably never going to get there, but even if you get halfway, you'll be happy. And it's the same thing I say for languages.
Thing I'd also like to mention is what I discussed in my video on loneliness. Languages for me have genuinely become like friends or companions. And I think especially the fact that I've learned a whole variety of different languages, you know, they each have their own personality, their own world that they open up to me. And so it very much feels like having a group of different friends. So I got my...
That's interesting. I never got that feeling from languages. Like, I don't feel like Chinese is a friend or Esperanto is a friend. To me, they are tools that open up a new world type of thing. Like, I guess you could say they've got personality because they've got, like, you know, their own little ways and idiosyncrasies of saying things, but I think friend is a bit of a strong word for me.
My one friend, Spanish, and spending time with Spanish, watching a TV drama or watching a film or reading a book, like, it's a completely different experience than doing the same thing in German or in...
You know, actually, this is something that's related to my YouTube channel in a way, because I feel like by making these videos, and I've been doing this since like 2011, I know, crazy, but by making these videos, coming online, chatting with people in the comment sections in my target language, that's like my extended friend group type of thing. And this is how I like to, you know, pass my time. I like to come and just chat with random people on the internet. You may stick around, you may go, you may come back. It doesn't really matter. We're just here to enjoy the time together, you know, during this fleeting moment of interest.
You know, Swedish or in Japanese or in Mandarin Chinese, right? And so it's almost like I have these different people who I can spend time with. And as I discussed in that video on loneliness, you know,
I'm guessing if like I was to equate languages to friends, I'm imagining that Chinese would be like the loud kind of obnoxious friend that I've got, and Esperanto would be like that really, you know, kind of oddball type of friend, the one that's like right on the cutting edge of everything, basically trying out the most crazy things, trying to get you on board, basically.
Over the Christmas break, I was particularly lonely, and for whatever reason, Spanish just came to my rescue. And it was really, it was like a friend coming and just saying, let's go through this period together, right? Let's do loads of stuff together. And I just immersed myself in all kinds of stuff with Spanish, and it was really special. I sometimes feel like it's kind of strange how I view languages like that, but whenever...
It is a different way of viewing it, but I don't consider it strange.
I say this, it seems to resonate with a lot of people who also are language enthusiasts out there. So that's an important thing to mention as well. One more.
I'm curious if you have like a similar type of thinking to him, or maybe even a similar type of thinking to me, drop it in the comments below. I'm sure there's plenty of people who've gone through this.
Thing I'll say about this idea of feeling like I'm missing out on experiences in the world and in life is that although I haven't really been out at all, to be honest, in the last 4 or 5 years, and just, I mean, almost literally just in a cave, you know, trying to build stuff and trying to create a better future for myself and also trying to help people out there. At the same time, you know, through consuming content like film.
This is going to probably be, I don't know, like there's this feeling that I've got, or this thought, I guess, where people like to help others when generally they should be helping themselves first. So I feel like there's a lot of people who put in so much effort into going and helping others because they're trying to distract themselves from their own internal problems and thoughts and stuff like that. So if you are the type of person who does that, I would say, focus on helping yourself first, because you are the most important person in your world, obviously. And then when you're comfortable with yourself and you're happy with where you are, then go out and help others, get through their difficult times. I'm talking from experience of seeing other people do this, and it generally never works out well for that person who's going out helping everyone else when they should really be focused on themselves.
Documentaries, novels, or nonfiction books, or any of these things. Yeah, you could do that anyway, right? And you could experience the world that way. But I find that when you're learning the language of a particular place or a particular group of people, you experience all those things through a different lens. And I find that it gives me, at least, a very different level of satisfaction, right? And so there are ways that learning languages has very specifically pushed me and helped me to still explore the world in my own way, but doing so in a way that does feel special and does feel different than if I were just, watching documentaries.
This is what I mean by you're literally being reborn when you start speaking and using another language. And it also feels special and useful at the same time, because every action you take helps improve you, as opposed to, if you do this in English, where every action of watching a movie, obviously enjoyment, relaxation is important to your mental health type of thing, but you can get all that plus more when you do it in another language you're learning.
About different places without that language learning component. And the final thing I'll mention, I think, is that learning languages has really helped me when I have that feeling of being lost. And I think that this is very relatable for so many people, where sometimes we just don't know where we are, where we're going, we're not sure what the...
100% this is, I would have put this at the beginning, at least for me. This is the most important thing.
Best next step is to take. And in a given moment, you're like, I don't know what to do with my time, what to do with my life today, tomorrow, this week. And so for me, I've always had language learning. It's a thing that is like my North Star, right? Because no matter how lost I feel in a given moment, I always know, or I certainly always feel like, hey, spending the day or the...
But I also do want to stress that this is not a language learning specific thing, okay? It doesn't have to be languages, which is your guiding star. I know that's what I talk about on this channel, and it might be a little bit heretical to say, it's not languages, but some people have different guiding stars. Some people, they just live to play sports on the weekend, with their mates type of thing. People just have different interests. Some people just want to go rock climbing. So what the most important thing is, you try out a bunch of things, and when you land on that one thing that's you'll know you've found it. Okay, you'll know you've found it when you've actually found it. And then that's your guiding star, and you can take that forward. That can lead you down career paths, that can lead you along interesting, fruitful friendships and stuff. For me, that was languages and doing languages and stuff about languages. For other people out there, it may not be that.
The next hour or however long I need or have, spending that learning Italian or Japanese or Mandarin, that always feels like it's productive, like it's useful, helpful, like it is going to benefit the future of my life. And so it's really nice to just always have something that I know I can spend my time on that feels productive, constructive, and it just feels right. And with that, I would like to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, which is BetterHelp, which is HELP, BetterHelp, which essentially is
Okay, normally I would skip past this, but we will watch it as we are reviewing someone else's video out of respect.
Professional online counseling with licensed therapists. One thing I've honestly wanted to try for many, many years is therapy, right? And even at times in my life when things have been going great or when I'm perfectly fine, there's just been so many people I've met in life who have told me therapy is something that can benefit anybody, especially the older we get, the more life experiences we accumulate. That often tends to come with certain baggage or certain things that we aren't always even aware of. And so I've always just known that doing therapy would be so helpful to me. But I've just always felt...
I don't know how I feel about therapy. I've spoken a lot here about, mental health and stuff and how you need to find your guiding star. And I guess therapy helps some people. But for me, unless I know the person intimately, I would not want to share my thoughts with them. But I also know that some people prefer to share their thoughts with someone who knows nothing about them and won't be a judge type of thing. But I guess that's a really interesting thing about that. But I guess in another way, this YouTube channel is a form of therapy.
Like the barrier has been so high, whether it's the cost, like it always seems so expensive, how to go about getting therapy. In recent times, like when I was in San Francisco, I tried through my insurance and then there were these crazy long waiting lists. And again, going privately seemed really expensive. It was just very complicated. And I was worried about things like, what if I get the wrong therapist? What if I spend loads of money and then it turns out it's not a good match? And so I think one of my favorite things about BetterHelp is that to me, it feels like they are lowering that barrier to entry in a variety of ways. It's a single place that you can go to. And the nice thing is they have these really detailed, really good questionnaires that you fill out as you sign up so that they can find out as much as possible about.
Okay, so I might say something a little bit controversial here. I really don't like having a sponsorship, even if it is for something like therapy, in a video where you're talking about mental health. Like, I know he probably has no ill intentions here of directing them to mental health. I don't know if mental health is a paid service or whatnot, but I feel like if someone came here for mental health advice and they're in a bad place, you're kind of taking advantage of them in a way. So if I was to do this, there's no way I would put any sponsorships in like a video. If someone wanted to know, like in the comments, I'm more than happy to say, hey, you know, go check out this or that type of thing. But injecting this into a video about mental health, I'm not really a fan of that. But then again, I don't do sponsorships, so maybe that's just a me thing.
About specifically what you need. And that's really great because what they do then is they essentially match you up with a counselor. And the cool thing is that once you match with somebody, it's not like you're stuck with them. You have the freedom, even from the first moment, to find a different counselor. So it's really cool because you're not just spending tons of money on one particular person and locked in to a given number of sessions. And my favorite thing, I think, honestly, is the fact that they offer financial assistance to those who need it. So you can apply for that. And as many of you know, I'm very passionate about making resources people need financially accessible. So I love that BetterHelp has those types of offerings as well. The service is available to clients.
See, this is why I don't like the whole sponsorship thing right in the middle of a video like this, is because what normally happens with YouTubers and sponsorships is you'll get a sponsor reach out to you and they will have some random product somehow related to what you're doing. And then what a lot of YouTubers will do is create a video around that product and then release the video. Now, I don't know if this is what he's done. Maybe he actually 100% like enjoys the service, he's used it before type of thing. But the fact that that's what happens in the YouTube space now makes me seriously question the motives here.
Clients worldwide. And what's really cool is that it's also based on messaging. It's not just your traditional appointment. They do have those video calls where you get to have a session with your counselor, but you can also send them a message at any time and you can get help that way as well in between sessions. Or you could even focus on messaging if you're just not comfortable yet having one of those one-on-one sessions. So again, it's accessible. It lowers that barrier to entry. And I just think it makes the whole process a lot smoother. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. This is professional counseling done securely online. So BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. I certainly do. And so visit betterhelp.com. That's HELP, betterhelp.com/Robin to get 10% off your first month.
Okay, the fact that this has lasted probably for about 30 seconds now means it is a sponsorship.
At BetterHelp and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I would love to hear about your own experiences with language learning and mental health, and I'll see you soon for another video.
Now, I actually did enjoy the video. I felt like it brought out some interesting points that I could raise with you guys, share some experiences. Just that one sponsorship at the end there, I don't think that was a good idea. Overall, like, I'm more than happy to provide resources or maybe even help you find resources if you really want, but like sponsorship for mental health in a mental health video, that feels a little bit like icky to me. Anyway, if you guys like this video, let me know in the comments below and I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're not there, then you better be grinding because you have no other reason.